Hey everybody, it's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy. We're in my kitchen today, which means that we're talking about my diet and exercise routine. So I've done a video like this every year since 2013 when I was 51. Now I'm 62, gonna be 63 this year. And I update my diet and my exercise routine a little bit every year. You know, I'm always trying to make my diet a little bit healthier. I'm always trying to make my exercise routine work a little bit better for me. And I find that the years since menopause have made everything so much harder. And I think if you're going through menopause, if you're postmenopausal, if you're anywhere in your life dealing with menopause, you know how much harder everything gets after you go through that lovely change of life. So now I'm 8 years postmenopausal, and I gotta say, it still is a little bit of a struggle. I definitely had to retool my exercise routine this year because I learned so much more, and I've retooled my diet quite a bit over the last 2 years. Now, I'm not saying that everything I'm doing is right. Certainly it's not. So my hope for this video is always to give people inspiration that you can be a 62-year-old postmenopausal woman and still be in good shape and still be, you know, fit and healthy and do the things that you want to do, because those are really the main goals of my diet and exercise routine, is that I want to be the fittest, healthiest person I can be at any age that I am, whether it was in my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, and now in my 60s, it's the same thing. I'm a firm believer that what I eat and the workouts that I do are going to have a direct impact, and probably the biggest impact, on how I age and how healthy I am at different ages. You know, because I love to do the things that I love to do. I want to be an independent older person. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to paddleboard, bike, hike, garden, just do anything that I want to do. I don't want to feel limited. So I do work hard, and I'm not going to pretend that I don't, because eating healthy, getting the right amount of protein, getting the right amount of fiber, cutting out sugars, eating a heart-healthy diet, making myself go to the basement and work out 3 to 4 times a week, it is not easy. It has never been easy, but it's something that, you know, you have to have the right mindset about it. You have to know that you're doing it for your overall good. When I think about that, we only get one body, right? We only get one body, and it has to sustain us our entire life. So if you think about it like it was your car, let's say, you wouldn't expect to treat your car like junk, put the worst gas in it, never wash it, never fill your tires with air, never get your oil changed. You wouldn't expect that car to last very long, would you? But with people's bodies, for some reason, they expect that they can eat junk food or super processed foods all the time, never work out, never do anything, and their body is still going to be there for them 10, 15, 20 years down the line. And, you know, it's just not a realistic thought. It's never too late to start on any diet or exercise routine. Obviously, you're not going to start in where I am, because I have been doing this for so long. But, you know, any little change that you can make to your lifestyle will really help. So in today's video, I'm going to go over what I eat in a day, which will include how I've increased the protein in my diet, because that's what a lot of people wanted to know. Also, how I've increased the fiber in my diet, how I was able to cut out a lot of sugars. And then we'll also talk about my exercise routine as well. So when I make adjustments to my routines, I like to keep my goals in mind, and those really drive the adjustments that I'm going to make for that year or going forward. So goal number 1 with both my diet and my exercise routine is my heart health. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women here in the United States. It kills more women annually than all cancers combined, and heart disease runs in my family. So I've been very aware of my heart health since I was in my 20s and got my first high cholesterol reading. Back then, I started doing the standard American Heart Association diet, which was to cut out saturated fats, fried foods, ultra-processed foods. But back then, they thought that you could have as much sugar as you wanted. And what I've learned over the last couple of years is that sugar also contributes to heart disease. And I'd say that my diet most closely aligns with the Mediterranean diet, which is high in unsaturated fats and omega-3s from things like fish and olive oil, nuts, legumes, seeds, and avocados. And I don't eat a lot of saturated fats, a lot of fried foods, a lot of ultra-processed foods, and I've stripped out a lot of the sugars more recently. I'm not going for a zero sugar diet. I do still consume a little bit of added sugar, but I'm talking about added sugars. I don't count sugars that are from natural things like fruit. I used to eat about 115 grams of sugar a day. Now I'm down to about 10 to 15 grams of sugar a day. The other dietary change that I made around my heart is that I increased my fiber intake. So fiber can help to lower your cholesterol, and it can also help to control your blood sugar. It also helps to fight visceral belly fat, and it also reduces gastrointestinal cancer risks. I don't know how much fiber I was eating a day before because I wasn't tracking it. Now I'm tracking everything, and now I'm getting between 21 and 30 grams of fiber a day. And so my workout routine also reflects that goal of keeping my heart healthy. And so I do some cardio every week. I try to do at least 30 minutes of cardio 3 times a week. Prior to this year, I was doing cardio on my Peloton bike, but this year I found out that biking does nothing for your bones. And so I've switched that, and that's the next goal that I keep in mind when I'm changing up my diet and exercise routine. So that leads us into goal number 2, which is my bone health. Now, this hasn't always been one of my goals. When I was younger, I always thought that my bones were probably fine. I thought I was getting enough calcium and vitamin D in my diet, and I was also lifting weights for my entire adult life, and so I thought my bones would be perfectly healthy. But over the last few years, I've gotten 2 DEXA scans, and they both showed bone loss already, not to the osteoporotic or osteopenic level, but some bone loss that I personally wasn't happy with. And so I have really retooled my diet routine over the past 2 years, my exercise routine over the past year, to really help with my bone health and my bone strength. After menopause, women lose about 2% of bone every year. So in the first 5 years of menopause, you lose 10% of your bone if you're not doing something about it, which I really wasn't, because I wasn't getting enough calcium or vitamin D, even though I thought I was. I thought I was doing the right kind of weight-bearing exercise. Turns out I wasn't. And I wasn't eating enough protein to help with my bones. So the number 1 change that I made to help with my bones was dietary, and that was to increase my protein intake, because protein builds muscle and muscle builds bone. After menopause, we process protein much less efficiently, so even though you might be eating the same amount of protein, your body isn't getting access to the same amount of protein to use to build muscle and bone. So you really have to increase protein intake once you're postmenopausal. Now, 3 years ago, I was probably eating about 60 grams of protein a day, and that is about half of what I should be eating. My goal currently is between 90 and 120 grams of protein a day. But of course, protein is one of those things that's a little more complicated because your body can only digest so much protein at a time. So really, if you're trying to get between 90 and 120 grams, and it's based on weight, then you should be getting 30 to 40 grams per meal or per sitting if you're eating 3 meals a day. The second change is that I completely retooled my workout routine, which was biking and light to medium weight bearing resistance exercise. I changed it to impact and rebounder exercise for cardio, and changed my resistance workouts to heavy load bearing resistance training. So in the earlier years of my menopause, the common knowledge was that if you lift weights, you will not lose bone, and I was lifting weights. But there was no specific information that lifting light weights would not do anything, and that lifting heavy weights was what you needed to do. Recently, I did a video on rebounding, and to prep for that video, I started researching whether rebounding really would help with bones, and I found out that yes, it can. But it took me down a rabbit hole of what could and couldn't help to build your bones in the world of exercise. And even though I had heard this before, that you needed to lift heavy, I got very much more specific information on the kinds of heavy loads that you need and the kind of impact that you need to do to actually build bones. And you know, when I had first heard this, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, I watched like a Katie Couric interview with Dr. Stacy Sims. She was the first person who I heard say that postmenopausal women should start lifting heavy and should also do their cardio differently, with lots of impact and lots of like sprinting intervals between zone 2 intervals. But when I first heard it, I remember thinking, well, you know, if I'm postmenopausal, how am I supposed to be doing this impact? I mean, we all have cartilage loss, we might have arthritis, we might have some bone loss already. So I understand, like, a lot of people are going to be like, well, I can't do that. I have a physical limitation. I finally did wrap my head around it, and I don't really have that many physical limitations. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll give it a try. Before, I was lifting maybe 3, 5, 7, and 10-pound weights were my heaviest. Since then, I've gotten 12-pound weights and 15-pound weights. I need to now go up to the next weight. So I'm going to need to get a set of 20-pound weights to continue to increase my muscle strength. And I'm so proud of myself. The first time I lifted those 15-pounders, I was like, oh my gosh, I could barely do one bicep curl with it. And now I'm at the point where I can do 8 or 10 and even maybe 2 or 3 sets of 8 or 10. And that's when you know that you're ready to go up to the next weight, is when they become easy to do a couple of sets. So that's the kind of muscle load that you need, is when you first lift it and you feel like, oh my God, I can't even do one. And then you just build up slowly over time, and then you keep getting stronger and stronger. The other thing that I did around that is I added a weighted vest, because just having the extra weight on my frame can help my bones to be stronger as well. And I started off just wearing it around the house 15 minutes a day. Then I increased to about an hour a day. Now I'm wearing it while I'm working out. I don't wear it while I'm on the rebounder. I wear it when I'm doing my resistance training. Third change I made for my bone health is that I did tweak my supplements a little bit, because as it turns out, I wasn't taking enough calcium, I wasn't taking enough vitamin D, and I wasn't taking any vitamin K2. I was getting about 500 milligrams of calcium a day. A couple of years ago, I have increased that. So now that I'm more in the 1500 milligram range, I also take more vitamin D. The research into vitamin D shows that it doesn't really start to build bone until you get up into the higher numbers. I believe it's around 4,000, where normally they tell you to take up to 2,000 IUs a day. So I definitely needed more vitamin D, so I'm taking more vitamin D. Vitamin K2 is a new vitamin for me, and that tells the calcium that you're taking where to go. So a lot of people are concerned with the calcium depositing in your arteries and causing heart issues. Where I have heart issues, I don't want that to happen. And so vitamin K2 is supposed to be able to tell the calcium to go to your bones. All right, let's go into what I eat in a day now, where I can show you exactly what I eat, how I get all that extra protein into my diet, how I get in all that extra fiber into my diet, and I'll show you a couple of options for each meal. So let's start with breakfast. I am a creature of habit. I'm very busy, I work like more than full time, and so I don't like food to be a pain. I don't like to have to think about it too much. So I tend to eat the same things day in and day out. And it makes it so easy for me, because I don't have to wake up in the morning and think about, ooh, what do I want to eat today? And not only what do I want to eat today, but how much protein is in that? How much fiber is in that? Oh, I have no idea. Let me go calculate it out. I don't want to deal with that. I just want to know that I'm getting the right amount of protein, I'm getting the right amount of fiber, I'm having the right amount of sugar also, which is hardly any, and that it is going to power me through my day. I've tried eating other things for breakfast. They don't stay with me. When I eat the breakfast that I eat, which is cereal, a low glycemic index cereal that's full of whole grains, very low in sugar, and I also add other things to it to further decrease the sugar, increase the fiber, increase the protein. So this is what works for me. What I do is I take the whole box of cereal, I dump it into a big bowl. I add a package of peanut butter granola. Now, I have searched long and hard for both these products to make sure that they're both very low in sugar, very high in fiber, very high in protein. Then I add in raw almonds, raw pumpkin seeds, and raw sunflower seeds. I mix that all up, I store it in a container, and then it's there for me to just pour out every morning. With my breakfast, I also have a cup of tea. I do use a sugar cube in my tea, because that is a measured 4 grams of sugar. If I, spoon it in there, I'm gonna put in a lot more. So this way it limits me to 4 grams. I change the milk that I'm putting in my cereal. Previously, I was using oat milk. I've switched to almond milk. I get the unsweetened almond milk, so it has 0 sugars in it. Sometimes I make my own almond milk. Sometimes I use store-bought almond milk. If I use the store-bought almond milk, it has calcium and vitamin D in it. If I'm out of that, I make my own almond milk, and I have this really great little almond milk maker. It only takes 5 minutes to make a batch. I love the flavor of this almond milk. It tastes so much more like almonds than processed almond milk that you buy in the store. Or sometimes I get skim cow milk, but I get lactate. It's not that I'm lactose intolerant, it's because Milk goes bad too fast, and I don't go to the grocery store that often, and so I like to have a milk that will last in the refrigerator for a longer amount of time. Depending on if I'm drinking nut milk that's fortified with calcium and vitamin D, or if I'm making my own nut milk, which is unfortified, or if I'm drinking cow milk, then I will either take a supplement to go with it or not. So that's my standard breakfast that I eat probably 340 days a year. And then sometimes I eat oatmeal, mainly this year because I got Invisalign, and on the day after I've switched my trays, my teeth hurt. And so my cereal's too crunchy to eat. And so I've started having oatmeal on the days that my teeth hurt. The oatmeal I get is an instant organic one. It's unsweetened. I put it in a bowl, and I add 2 tablespoons of sugar-free peanut butter. I make it with milk instead of water and some fruit on top. And I also have my cup of tea. I used to drink a 1/4 cup of orange juice to take my vitamins. Now I just take my vitamins with my tea. So my standard breakfast with the cereal and the tea has 30 grams of protein. It's got 9 grams of sugar, and it's got 8 grams of fiber. That 9 grams of sugar is pretty much the only sugar that I have for the entire day. So my alternate breakfast with the oatmeal has 31 grams of protein and 6 grams of fiber, so not quite as much fiber as with the cereal breakfast, and it has 4 grams of sugar in the tea, none in the oatmeal. But I gotta say, both my breakfasts really only have 20 grams of protein. I put in a scoop of Vital Proteins collagen supplement into my tea, and I count that as 11 grams of protein. Now, a lot of people don't want me to count that as a protein because it is an incomplete protein. And the only one it's missing is tryptophan. I figure that I probably get the tryptophan from somewhere else during the day. So I don't see any reason not to count it. And as I mentioned before, my supplements are different depending on what nut milk I'm using or if I'm using cow milk. So if I'm using cow milk or fortified nut milk, then I don't take the calcium vitamin D supplement in the morning that I have. If I'm having my homemade nut milk with my breakfast, I add the Citracal supplement to my morning supplements. 2 pills of Citracal gives me 400 milligrams of calcium and 500 IUs of vitamin D. Then I also take a creatine supplement. This one is new this year. I take 2.5 grams of creatine a day. I take a CoQ10 supplement in the morning. I also take resveratrol, my vitamin K2 supplement, and my phytoceramides. I'm not going to go into what all my supplements are in this video. I just did a video on all my supplements where I added some and dropped some other ones, so that's brand new. So I can link that for you right up here if you want to take a look at that one. Okay, so I also eat the same thing for lunch every day, except for if I don't have my stuff made up. So my lunch is very labor intensive, but I make most things like 1 day a week or 1 day a month, and then I put them in a container and then they last for a bit. So what I eat for lunch every day is a big salad with salmon salad on top. It also will have avocado and some other veggies, maybe beets. Sometimes I put fruit in it, like the one I'm showing here has apples in it. And then to get extra fiber and extra protein in it, I give it a sprinkle of nuts. This is a pecan, sunflower seed, and pumpkin seed mix, and I mix this up like once a month. I keep it in a Tupperware container, and then I just sprinkle it over my salad. I also have a piece of toast on the side, and I put 2 tablespoons of hummus on that. That gives me some extra proteins. I make my salmon with yogurt, so that adds extra protein to the salmon. So this is just a protein bomb of a lunch. The changes to my lunch this year is that I used to use the little cans of salmon that are skinless and boneless. And I had said in last year's video, like, you don't really get that much calcium with that salmon because all the calcium's in the skin and the bones. And some people had written in and said, you know, you could just mash those into your salmon salad and you won't even notice they're there. And I was like, come on, that stuff is disgusting. The skin is gray and I'm sure it tastes fishy, and the bones, I'm gonna choke on a bone. I actually tried it, you guys, and guess what? I really, really liked it. So what I do is I put the whole can of salmon into the food processor. And this makes more salmon mush than salmon salad, which took a couple minutes for me to get used to, but now that I'm used to it, it's good. But I make it with yogurt, and then I put in some spices and things. I also home make my own dressing because I don't want all the added sugars and sodiums from store-bought dressing. So the recipe for my dressing is on my blog. It's a lemon tahini dressing. It is delicious. And the recipe for my salmon salad is also on my blog, and just the whole general salad recipe is on there. The other thing I've switched is I used to use baby kale. Now I use a big bag of curly kale, and I have to cut off the ribs because, oh, you can't chew them. But I kind of like the curly kale. It's chewier. That lunch has 38 grams of protein. It has 0 grams of sugar, and it has 17.2 grams of fiber. So I love that lunch. Then I do have an alternate lunch on the days where I don't have any salmon salad made up, I don't have any lettuce washed, I don't have any beets cut up, I don't have any dressing made, I don't have any nuts mixed, which happens rarely. So what I make is a piece of avocado toast with an egg on top. I use the Ezekiel sesame bread. This is like a no wheat bread. It's got a good amount of protein. It's got a great amount of fiber. Put a half an avocado on that. I over easy an egg and I put that on there. That doesn't give me enough protein or fiber for lunch. So then I also have a bowl of yogurt. I put some fruit in it. In this case, I had strawberries and pineapple laying around, so I threw those in. I also have a bottle of wheat germ in the fridge. I only used about a teaspoon of that, maybe 2 teaspoons. It takes a lot of wheat germ to give you extra protein, but it does add in a little bit of extra protein. So I sprinkled some of that on top, and then I put some of the nut mixture from my salad on there. So that lunch gives me 30 grams of protein and 10 grams of fiber. Also, because of Invisalign, I used to have an afternoon snack where I would have a cup of green tea and I would cut up an apple and I would use 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, and that would give me the extra protein that I would need to get over 100 grams in a day. With the Invisalign, I'm really not having my afternoon snack because every time you eat or drink something, you have to refloss and rebrush. It's just too much time out of my day. So I've taken my peanut butter and apple snack, pulled it apart. I usually will have the apple with lunch. I'll usually just have the peanut butter part of it as dessert after dinner. I scoop out 2 tablespoons of peanut butter because that's 8 grams of protein. Okay, now for my dinner, there are really no major changes. I tend to eat a meal that's like salmon with, say, farro on the side or quinoa on the side, and then a vegetable, either zucchini, broccoli, cauliflower, whatever. My salmon meal is usually around 35 grams of protein and 3.5 grams of fiber. Then I was just going to show you another meal that I make, which is like a thing that I usually make with ground turkey. You could consider this almost like a white chili or a white pasta sauce. You can eat it over anything. I tend to not eat a lot of pasta anymore, so I just take some ground turkey and I brown it up in a pan with some onions and garlic. I also put in vegetables because I don't like to make a separate salad on the side when I make something that's a one-pan meal like this. So I load it up full of vegetables. I will either grate some zucchini into it. Then I always add in a can of either white beans or black beans. If I'm turning it into chili, the black beans are perfect because they add extra fiber. Or I keep frozen kale or frozen spinach in the fridge. I'll put a bunch of that in, and then I serve it over either quinoa or farro or buckwheat. Substitute out your normal carbohydrate, which is going to be white rice, white pasta. They don't generally have a lot of protein in them. You can substitute in things like farro, quinoa, and buckwheat, which have 6 grams of protein in a 1/4 cup serving. My turkey, white bean, and farro meal has 34.5 grams of protein, 10 grams of fiber, 0 grams of sugar, and I also calculated out the calcium. It's got 104 milligrams of calcium. And I'll put the recipe for that on my blog as well. So my daily totals eating some combination of those things tends to be about 110 grams of protein, 24 grams of fiber, and 9 grams of sugar. And I've been there for about 2 or 3 years now, and I'm really, really happy with it. I'm really happy to say that, I don't struggle with my gut. I don't struggle with menopausal belly fat. I don't struggle with putting weight on or trying to keep weight off. I just eat this, and when I'm eating it, it feels like a lot of food. I am full when I eat any of these meals. I don't feel deprived and I feel energized. Except for the Vital Proteins, I really don't use protein powders, protein drinks, or protein snacks. So it does take more time, a little more meal prep kind of thing. Like on the weekends, I'll cut the nuts and put them in the bin. I'll make the dressing and put it in the dressing container. I work from home, and so it's convenient for me. I tend to stick to my eating plan for most of the time, and then when it's a holiday or a special occasion or I'm just going out for no reason, I can do whatever I want. Now, people often ask me about alcohol, and I don't usually talk about it too much in this video, but I noticed that a lot of YouTubers are talking about alcohol now, and a lot of people are stopping drinking. So I am not giving up alcohol completely. Like most people, I'm a social drinker and I like my wine and I'm really into rosé. So where I used to have wine twice on the weekend. Now I'm trying to have wine only once on the weekend since I have it once during the week. And my limit is 2 drinks. And that adds some sugars into my diet, which I don't count. Okay, so on to the exercise routine. I thought I would take you down to the basement with me to do one of my workout routines, and you can see the changes that I've made. There's my Peloton gathering dust. Now my workouts center around the rebounder. And so for today's workout, I'm working out with Michelle Breiler. It's 45 minutes. It combines rebounding with floor weighted work and heavy weights. I got the rebounder with the springs because I wanted the extra impact. And I like this rebounder a lot. It does have a handle. I haven't attached it yet. I really don't feel like I need it though. Working out as we get older, it does become a challenge because I don't know if you can see underneath my leggings, but I have on knee braces, and I wear knee braces every time I work out, whether I'm doing my jumps, whether I'm doing my rebounding on my trampoline, or whether I'm doing just regular resistance training on the floor. I always wear my knee braces because my knees have been creaking and being a little bit achy for the better part of 23, 22 years now. And I need to take care of them so that they will last a little bit longer than they would without the braces. I find that if I work out without my knee braces, then my knees are very achy afterwards. If I wear the knee braces, then they're not as achy afterwards. So these are things like you have to make adjustments for your age. You can't expect to do everything exactly as you used to do it. During the weightlifting portions of the video, I put my weighted vest on. So this is a change that I've made this year, is I've added the weighted vest to my workout routine. I don't do the rebounder with the weighted vest, but I do put it on when I'm lifting my weights. When I have to lay on my back to do things, it's very uncomfortable, so I take it off for that too. The length of the workout I do always depends on how much time I have. I try to work out, like I said, 3 to 4 days a week. So if I'm squeezing one in and I only have 20 minutes, I'll usually just pull up a Tracy Steen workout, like a quick one, and she is just literally going to be lifting weights and be doing compound exercises like squats, lunges, bicep curls. She'll do a little bit of ab work in there. And I love those workouts. They're really great for just a short little workout. That's what I did this morning. I only had 20 minutes, half an hour, because I was going to get my hair colored. So I got in a quick workout in the morning. You know, when I'm at my peak of working out, I tend to do 45-minute to 60-minute workouts. I really don't do a lot of those 20-minuters, but in the last couple of months, I've had to squeeze in a 20-minute workout here or there in order to just keep my body moving and keep active. And I really am happy that I've done that. And it's all about just prioritizing yourself and prioritizing your health above all else. Because the thing with working out is that, you know, not only does it help you to build strong bones and help you to have a strong heart and help your muscles to be stronger, gives you better balance. Working out is so good to relieve stress. Okay, so as I said, this was a 45-minute workout. It was on the trampoline, then off the trampoline. Then during one part where she was doing something that I felt like wasn't something that I wanted to do, I think it was like a burpee or something, I swapped in my jumps. So I do my 20 jumps on the hard floor. That's my impact. That's going to help build my bones. And that's the other thing with doing these workouts. You don't have to do exactly what they do. You know, if they're doing something that you're uncomfortable with, you can modify. You can do it how you want to do it and make concessions for your body. It's always good to stretch a bit after a workout. I'm doing my little stretches here. I love the stretches because the thing with working out is, especially when you start, you're going to be sore like 2 days later. And the more you stretch, the less sore you're going to be. Anyway, that's the workout I did that day. This morning I did a 20-minute Tracy Steen. Tomorrow I'm not going to work out. I'll work out again the day after that, and I'll probably do a full hour workout. No rebounder, just an hour of heavy resistance training on the floor with some impact. So that is my diet and exercise routine for this year. And what's weird about it is that my exercise routine is getting harder the older I get, but you know, this is new information that doctors online are telling us to do, and I can't wait to get my next DEXA scan to see where my bones are at. I hope that they will have remodeled somewhat and that I will be out of that close to osteopenic zone. So that's it for today's video. I hope you found it helpful and informative. If you have any questions for me, just leave them in the comments below the video. All products shown will be in the description box below the video for quick and easy shopping. If you're interested in a rebounder, underwear, some sneakers, some knee braces, you know, whatever. It's all down there. And as always, thanks so much for watching. I thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.